While browsing the OzBargain website, I came across an excellent B-grade laptop deal. This thing arrived pretty quickly, so I think it's time we should open up the box and see whether it was worth buying such a cheap laptop. Alright, let's see just what a B-grade laptop for 199 Australian dollars looks like. And they sold out very fast, unsurprisingly. Let's see. Oh, it is. Okay, so we've got the laptop with an adequate supply of bubble wrap. Oh, yeah, and we've got the charging brick, of course. And oh, it's a USB. You might not be able to even see that, but it's a USB-C charger. That's good. So I'm going to be able to charge this laptop from basically anything. All right, let's open this up and see exactly what we've got. Ooh. You know what? This actually feels. I mean, it feels pretty solid. It's quite cool to the touch feel, but I think it is plastic. I think. I believe it has either Windows 10 or Windows 11 built in. This looks pretty good, condition-wise. It looks pretty good. We'll have to take a closer look, but honestly, at first glance, I'm pretty impressed.
My initial impression was good for this Latitude 5420 notebook. However, I became very frustrated when it came to setting up the preloaded Windows 11 installation, which required the system to start no less than 6 times, download and install updates several times, try to sell me on multiple Microsoft paid subscriptions, and generally took up a huge chunk of my time. And around 40 minutes later, yes, 40 whole minutes, we were up and running. This laptop came out in early 2021 as a decently equipped business device, featuring Intel's 11th Gen 1135 G7 quad-core processor. And don't let the slim form factor fool you, this comes with a decent selection of ports including Thunderbolt 4, as well as microSD card, Type A USB ports, and even a compact Ethernet jack. The B-grade listing means there will be some minor cosmetic defects, and honestly, it's in pretty good shape overall. It even has the original sticker around the power button. This doubles as a fingerprint sensor in higher spec models. It's also very common for business-focused laptops to have a physical cover for the webcam, and I'll test its quality later in the video. This laptop thankfully included a charging adapter. The laptop itself can actually be powered conveniently through USB Type-C, as mentioned earlier. There's a nice chunky 3-pin wall plug, but the 65-watt adapter is sadly a replacement and not the original. Speaking of charging, the brand Charge sent me over their new wireless charging power bank. I thought this would be pretty cool to check out. It honestly looks like an old Sony CyberShot camera, and the carry strap doubles as USB power in and out at up to 35 watts. With wireless charging at up to 25 watts and active cooling, it's quite literally a cool little device, with pleasant RGB lighting, which can be turned off if you're not a fan. Charge haven't paid me to say any of this, but I found it pretty versatile. A great bit of kit for travel, and it also doubles as a magnetic phone stand. At least this came with a charger at all, and before we go ahead and really start using it, I'd like to look inside. It's as simple as dislodging a few plastic clips with all the visible screws loosened off. That's a rather dusty fan for a supposedly refurbished laptop, and as you can see, the battery is quite small. It could have been optioned for a larger 63 watt-hour pack directly from Dell. When it comes to storage, the 256GB NVMe drive is thankfully removable. The tiny M2 SSD even has a heatsink surprisingly, although rather hilariously, the thermal pad was pressed right up against the sticker. A physically larger solid-state drive can also be installed. However, there are no free slots to install a second drive in here. There is, however, a second DDR4 RAM slot free, the system coming with 16GB already installed, and adding a second stick would allow you to run the RAM in dual channel mode, with some performance benefits. Built in June of 2021, this notebook apparently has excellent battery health, and I've left the thermal management on optimized, giving a good balance between battery life, performance, and fan speed. So, what are my thoughts on the device? For a device that's quite portable, the battery is somewhat disappointing. Doing some 1080p YouTube playback, the system estimates just over 2 hours of use, and you'd be very surprised how quickly the percentage goes down. So you'll be relying on the power supply or a high output battery bank to keep you going for extended periods of use. And if you're using it outdoors, you'll need to max out the screen brightness, as I learned pretty quickly. But how bright is it exactly? I brought out my ColorMonkey screen calibrator to find out. A maximum brightness of only 235 nits, and this 1080p IPS panel has some coverage of the most common color spaces. And while the display isn't great, the backlit keyboard proved decent for long typing sessions, and as a business device for writing up documents and getting work done, it's honestly pretty decent. And how about the webcam quality? This is a test of the built-in webcam and microphone recording at 1280 by 720p at 30 frames per second. Does the audio quality sound any good? Well, you tell me. It's usable, and something this laptop is not designed for is gaming. And trying out PUBG at the absolute lowest settings, it is not playable. You might get a slight performance boost by putting in a second stick of RAM and running it in dual channel mode though. If you try much older games, like Star Wars Battlefront 2 though, it runs perfectly. This game came out around 20 years ago, so you could say this laptop is ideal for retro gaming. The Intel Iris Xe graphics are more than adequate for web browsing, light gaming, and watching video honestly. This CPU came out at the same time as Apple's M1, but how good is it exactly? Cinebench puts it to the test and we can see some thermal constraint, reaching the maximum temperature and then reducing the boost clock speed and the overall wattage. Let's try to improve that, shall we? And once again, it's a very easy laptop to get inside. And I'm sure many IT staff had loved just how easy these were to disassemble. First, I'll disconnect the battery to avoid causing damage. And getting to the processor and removing the cooling assembly is also very simple. 6 screws hold it onto the frame. Under load, it's pretty easy to see why this reached 100 degrees as the heat pipes are not big. I gently lifted up the assembly, which came out without a fuss. That thermal paste had become rather solid, not exactly much of a paste anymore. And it's a shame that Dell skimped out on the cooling system as this laptop has plenty of room inside for more. And brushing the fan off removed a lot of the dust, and I also took it outside and blasted it further. While I had the laptop open, I also dusted out the rest of the casing, which wasn't too bad considering it likely saw a few years of use in a school or business environment. And going in is some Arctic MX4, a reliable paste I've been using for many years. Will this help with system performance? Let's find out. The system maintains a higher boost CPU clock speed for longer, before settling at a higher overall wattage and clock speed for the remainder of the test. It scored 134 points higher, which is a bit of an improvement, and for the price I paid, getting an 11th gen i5 equipped laptop in reasonable condition is a good deal. It's sturdy and has many more years of life left in it, and with a few upgradable components and easy disassembly, it's not yet e-waste. That's for sure.
Thank you very much for watching. Honestly, this was an excellent laptop deal. For school, home, or work, this is an excellent laptop. For gaming, not so much, but considering the specs and the price I paid, I think it was an absolute bargain. Thank you very much for watching. I've got lots of other tech videos in the pipeline coming to you soon, so stay tuned for those, and I'll see you in the next one.